The Gong Show won't be seen tonight, so we can bring you a very special episode of The Gen X Files. Welcome to The Gen X Files. I'm Jim.
I'm Adam.
And today's show is all about the
$6 million man. Oh, man.
That's his bionics freezing up.
Oh, he's, yeah. Because he has one weakness.
The cold.
And that is the cold.
Yes, and Jamie Summers.
Oh, sweet Jamie.
Oh, yeah. I got to sing that song at some point.
Sing that song.
Man. Okay, so welcome to February. This
Yes.
is because it's the love month, and I love nothing except for television and
And movies. Entertainment.
Yes, I don't love people. No. But these are our first loves, the things that got us into the things. So, for me, The $6 Million Man was the first show, the TV show, that really hooked me. I had liked TV ever since I was born.
Yeah.
But this was the show that, was the first one where I'm like, I got to watch this all the time. I got obsessed with it. I had the big old doll, to the chagrin of the old man. And I had a little,
You
my
mean
sister.
action figure?
Well, let's be honest. It was a doll. That was a big-ass doll.
Yeah.
But my sister clued me in. I totally forgot. Because I used to dress up. When I'd watch the Hulk, I would dress up and I would change into the Hulk when the Hulk changed. I had my little cut-off jeans and my ripped-up shirt.
Yeah.
A lot of rage. But I also apparently had a little red tracksuit that I would put on as my $6 Million Man costume outfit.
Nice.
I was such a weird kid. Anyway, so that's for me, and then next week we're doing Quantum Leap.
Quantum Leap. That was my first love. That got me into TV. Hour-long dramas. I definitely watched sitcoms before that.
Well, not just TV. It got you into time travel.
Yeah, that was the big thing, is that I am a huge time travel nerd, and I was too young, really, for, Back to the Future and to really understand it. But Quantum Leap was the first thing where it was like, you're essentially becoming someone else in a different time period. Mm-hmm. It's fun. It's been really fun rewatching. I have not watched it in a long time. And man, is it so the 80s.
Oh, it's great. And then we're closing out with Stephen King, who basically, for both of us, kind of got us into reading. And
yes. I am
horror.
So excited to talk about 70s and 80s Stephen King. We don't talk about books very often on the show, so I'm excited to talk about that.
That'd be nice.
And both of our stories of reading Stephen King way too young.
Yes. It explains a lot. It explains quite a bit. Oh, man. I have not watched The $6 Million Man since it was on. I don't know why I never did a rewatch. I rewatched all of my old faves, but for some reason I never rewatched this. Maybe I just couldn't find it or whatever. But
you were pretty young when it first started.
Yes, I was very young.
Maybe it didn't have that kind of indelible memory like Magnum did and stuff when you were a little older.
Well, no, what's crazy is it did. And I love the show, but I think you may be right that when I was really young, the things that you like, it's like I'm not rewatching Captain Kangaroo,
Sesame Street,
or Mr. Rogers, but still rewatching it again, it is such a good show.
Yeah, I had never seen it. I'd never watched it, and I got so sucked in so fast.
It is a show that has no idea what it is.
That's what makes it so great.
And that works to its benefit instead of its detriment with most shows. You would think, it's kind of... But it also is such an amazing time capsule for the 70s because they hit every fad. Everyone on that show.
All of them.
Gliders. You remember when people used to tow up those gliders and they would...
Oh, yeah,
They had a show about that. Square dancing, roller derby, sharks, Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah.
Moonshining. Aliens, you name it, they had it. And
literally them just reading the paper going, all right,
let's do this. And some of your favorite actors from the 70s and 80s made their debut or showed up on this show.
Yeah, there were a lot of guest stars.
And it's watching it again, too. Steve Austin is such a good role model without being cloying. You know what I mean? Without being like too goody-goody. Because the MFer does cheat, man. He uses his bionics to win.
Sure. Well,
he's a very competitive guy.
I mean, would you not?
Well, I mean, that's the thing that I like about it is, yes, everybody would.
Yeah.
And instead of, like Superman and everything, I can't use my powers. He's like, F you, I'm going to shoot this basketball from...
Do you remember when I crashed and almost died? I deserve this.
Yes. Oh, I'm going to cheat at arm wrestling because I'm a jerk. But
but inevitably the other guy is some kind of dick that is like deserves it. He deserves it.
He did it to his buddy as he like beat his best friend. But then he owned up to it.
Well, there you go. That's Steve Austin.
Because it's what's your clearance level, buddy? If you're not clearance level 6, you don't get to know about the bionic.
That is true. He's very secretive.
But and the Bionic Woman and the Bigfoot arc.
Oh my God, that was the moment when Jim told me that there was Bigfoot, and I was just like, "What?"
Yeah,
and it worked so well
because it's not like any other Bigfoot you've ever seen.
Because it made no sense at all.
Costume's awful, by the way. You could see the zipper up the back, but oh my God,
they wrestled pretty good.
Because the first, we'll get into it. But,
yeah,
but it's just, if you haven't seen this show, you should watch it.
Yeah, it is on Peacock. It is available. The first 3 TV movies and the entire series is available on Peacock. And really, there's stuff after that, but you could stop at the end of it.
I don't know. I mean, I definitely want to see the movies. I want to see how that plays out.
I was able to find one. We'll talk about it more later, but I was able to find one on YouTube. I think another was like an Italian, and then the third one, the very last one, just is gone.
Wow.
Like I could not find it anywhere.
You got to buy the DVDs, apparently.
Yes, actually, I think the only place it's available is on the full set.
That's why we're championing physical media this year.
Physical media this year,
yeah. Physical media.
Yeah.
And you can pick up the entire series on DVD for like $60.
Yeah, it's not very much.
Blu-ray, 100 and something, but you don't need Blu-ray for
What
this.
do you need Blu-ray for?
And it comes with all 5 seasons plus all the
6
movies.
TV movies.
You got it all. And then for an extra $19, pick yourself up The Bionic Woman.
Oh,
Jamie Summers, my first crush.
I'm actually really excited to start watching that show, too.
Oh, she's great. And it takes place in Ojai, which
not a
lot of stuff does.
Oh, Ojai.
All right, well, let's get into it.
All right, let's get into it.
Talk about it forever.
Take yourself back to 1973.
Wow.
March 7th, the first of 3 The $6 Million Man TV movies airs. On May 14th, Skylab, the United States' first space station, is launched.
That was such a big deal.
Yeah, and I didn't realize, but Skylab wasn't that big. I thought it was much bigger than it was.
No, it just had a big name. That's another thing about the show that totally... Because I was really into space as a kid, as any kid in the 70s.
Well, of course.
One of my very first memories is watching one of the moon landings, probably, the 70s, of course. I doubt I remember the
one from
69, because I was months old. But
if not, you have the greatest memory ever.
I do. But yeah, again, astronaut, he totally went in on the space race because unlike now, when people could give an S about space, back then, man, we loved it. NASA was king. Astronauts were superstars, and all we wanted to do was explore space and keep on going, and we didn't. We would have been on Mars today if we kept up at the pace we were at.
We should have, yes. I was just at the National Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola, and it's huge, number one. But number two, they have this whole holographic display where it's all these old astronauts who just push buttons and they answer questions. It was the coolest thing ever.
And I went to the moon.
They were so excited still, like 50 years later. They were so excited about it.
I swung a golf club and the ball went. It's still going today.
One of the guys talked about a hammer they didn't need, and he was like, I threw it, and man, I threw that thing so far.
I felt like a superhero. I felt like Steve Austin, the Bionic Man.
May 25th, Skylab 2 is launched on a mission to repair damage to the recently launched Skylab space station.
They had a lot of problems.
Literally within 11 days, they had to launch something else because it got damaged on the way up.
It was the first international space station, right?
Yeah.
Skylab was international. Was Skylab international or just a?
No, it was just the United States.
Right.
Part of the reason it failed is because it was only United States. They did the international stuff because they realized just how friggin' expensive it was to keep it going. Yeah. September 20th, Jim Croce, Maury Mulhausen. Oh wow, I can't say that. Mulhausen. And 4 others are killed on takeoff in a plane crash following a concert at Northwestern Louisiana University in Natchitoches.
So sad. My parents are big fans of Jim Croce, and I used to listen to him all the time.
I literally, until now, did not realize that he died in a plane crash.
Really?
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah, I knew that. And it was devastating to a lot of people. He was
a huge... a lot of babies were made to Jim Croce.
He owned Easy Listening for a while. And, Big Bad Jim.
He did. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He made a song just about me.
He did.
So that's why when I was born, he looked at me and he said, oh, he's going to be Big Bad Jim.
God. October 20th, the second of 3 The $6 Million Man TV movies airs. November 3rd, Mariner program. NASA launches the Mariner 10 toward Mercury on March 29th, 1974. It becomes the first space probe to reach that planet.
Again, 1974, man. We're talking computers that are punch cards.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The fact that they were able to go to other planets and, it's insane the amount of stuff that we did back then. And now look, we're doing great stuff with...
It seems like it's ramping back up.
But it's mostly like telescopes and stuff.
No, they're talking about going back to the moon.
Well, they're talking about it.
Well, they're talking about it because they want to go to Mars. So they're going to have to essentially establish a base on the moon first.
Well, also, everybody's going to the moon now. Japan. China.
It needs to be a worldwide thing. It needs to be an international accomplishment.
Start planting flags on the moon and have the moon wars.
That's why we got our Space Force.
Come on, Space Force.
November 17th, the last of the 3 $6 Million Man TV movies airs. They all did really well. So the $6 Million Man was adapted from a novel called Cyborg by Martin Caidin.
Okay.
Funny enough, I actually got this from the library. Have not read it yet. We'll read it before the Stepdad show.
Yeah, well,
and I will let you read it.
Did you bring it with you on your trip?
Yeah, I did not read it on the trip.
Because I was going to look for it, but
I should have left it for you because you would have read it, and I didn't. I had it with me the whole time, and I just didn't.
That's all right. You had lots to do.
I was traveling. Caidin began writing fiction in 1957. In his career, he authored more than 50 fiction and nonfiction books, as well as more than 1,000 magazine articles.
Goodness.
That is a lot. He also wrote numerous works of military history, especially concerning aviation. Caidin was a pilot and researched aviation extensively.
Yeah.
He was a very interesting character. In the mid-'80s, he hosted a TV show called Face to Face, where he would confront far-right political figures with aggressive questions and good research.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know if do you remember this at all?
I do remember Face to Face. I had no idea that it was...
Martin Caidin?
Yeah, I had no idea that Martin Caidin
was the guy that wrote $6 Million Cyborg. Yeah. I remember... I think there was a parody of Face to Face. I remember more than Face to Face.
Well, there was a lot of shows like that, but most of them were just screaming guys like Morton Downey Jr.
Yeah.
And
that, that guy, I can't think of his name. Yeah. Like the Crossfire guys, or it was before that.
Well, Crossfire was a political show that was, I think, on PBS. It wasn't like a screaming head show. Like,
oh no, then I'm thinking of something else. Then
you're probably thinking of there was another show. There was a lot of these like Morton Downey Jr. shows where it was just guys being jerks,
right?
And there was another one with Rebecca De Mornay's father, whose name escapes me. It's probably something De Mornay, but he was kind of the quintessential screaming head, the guy that started it all.
Okay,
made room for Morton Downey Jr. and the rest of the screamers.
Well, Face to Face sounds fascinating, but also in the mid-'80s, Martin Caidin claimed he was telekinetic.
Ooh.
But he refused to be tested by a well-known parapsychologist debunker, James Randi.
James Randi. He's ruined everything for everybody.
Man, you want to talk about raining on your parade? That's James Randi.
Yeah, he did. Well, good for him, though. I mean, James Randi was a mentalist. And
he was actually looking for the real stuff.
Right, because he was like, look, I do it.
Right,
I know how to do it. It's all BS. It's all tricks.
He's following in the footsteps of Harry Houdini, who wanted to know about the afterlife.
What's really funny is in one of the episodes of The $6 Million Man, he has to go undercover as a magician.
Oh, nice.
And he's got this buddy who is a sleight of hand magician guy, and he's the debunker, and he's like this cool kind of con man, kind of magician guy that Steve goes to for advice, and he's his friend. He's like, well, you should come with me. And he's like, come with you? Well, I'm not doing that. I'm going to stay here and make money. But he ends up coming and debunking because there were these weird. Okay, this is just indicative of the show, by the way. So there were these twins who were doing the quoties, 12, but they looked like they were in their 20s because they aged rapidly.
Okay.
They had this insane twin mind meld capability.
Okay.
And what they could do is they could use their minds to take the writing on this piece of paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make it disappear and reappear.
Oh, okay.
For them.
Wow.
And the way they explained it kind of made sense. But this magician guy was
the most
very
utterly useless power ever.
No, man, because they were going to get classified info.
They were stealing. They were spies.
Yeah.
They were stealing stuff.
They were doing stuff.
Uh-huh.
So they weren't spies. They were misunderstood. This is why I love the show, because just about every quote unquote villain, they're all misunderstood.
Right.
And Steve always finds a way to kind of not kill them,
right?
And
to justify
and try to
not
them?
murder, making them be good.
He was like he never used a gun. But anyway, so this character was very James Randi-esque.
Oh, okay.
Which is funny considering that.
Yeah, how it turned out. In 1973, Cyborg was adapted into a 90-minute made-for-television movie called The $6 Million Man. The TV movie followed the book closely in the first half with how Austin crashes and loses hope, but veers dramatically in the second half when they send Austin to Saudi Arabia to test his abilities.
Yeah. The first part of that movie is so depressing.
Oh, my God.
It's just him.
And when you're watching it on Peacock, it's not the full TV. They break it into the syndication.
Yeah.
And oh my God, that first episode is so depressing.
It's just him in a bed with no arms and with no legs and no arms.
I want to die.
Pushing people away and I get it. If I were in a bed with no arms, leg, and one eye missing, I'd be pretty peeved.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be too keen on moving on.
The first TV movie was going to be used as a test to see if they could build a series off of the material. This first movie features Martin Balsam, perhaps best known for his role as an investigator in Psycho.
Oh, yeah.
As Dr. Rudy Wells, Austin's personal doctor.
He was great.
Who is amazing. I love Martin Balsam so much. It also features Darren McGavin, perhaps best known as the Grumpy Father in A Christmas Story, as Steve Austin's boss at the OSO, which they later renamed the OSI.
Yeah, which is so funny because that's what they on Venture Brothers. It's
the OSI.
It's called the OSI that
which
Brock Sampson worked for.
I assume the OSO meant the Office of Secret Operations, and then OSI is Office of Secret Investigations.
Maybe.
We're going to go with that. This TV movie was a huge rating success and led to 2 more movies before going full on in a series.
They were very cautious.
Yeah, it seems weird because it's like, but then they had to go and try to change everything up.
Well, that's the thing. Again, they never really knew what the series was, but somehow it worked.
Also, the fact that they released this in March, the first one in March, and they were waiting to see if it was going to work, and by October, they had a second TV movie ready.
Ah, well, stuff took no. Look, if you look at the production values,
done. Yeah,
and I'm not, this is everything in the 70s, but everything was practical, man. The greatest thing about anything shot in the 70s that's action, especially this, is if the hero enters a room filled with cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
There's going to be a fight.
Oh, yeah.
Because they threw everybody in.
Yeah.
Because that's the greatest way of doing stunts is you just throw people into the cushy boxes.
Right.
And it's just like, there's boxes. It doesn't matter if it's Magnum. Doesn't matter if it's Rockford.
Right.
Doesn't matter what show it is, the A-Team. You see them boxes, there's going to be a brawl.
Time for a fight. So the second TV movie was released in October of 73 and the third in November. So apparently they just made those back-to-back, I'm assuming.
Probably.
Despite Martin Caidin writing 4 novels in his Cyborg book series, none of the sequels were adapted for the 2 other TV movies or the series.
Huh.
Super weird. These 2 TV movies were produced by Glenn A. Larson, who produced a ton of TV movies and shows in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, we know his daughter.
We do. Yeah, we do. Danielle, she's very nice. He actually wrote the theme song for these 2 movies, being sung by Dusty Springfield.
Nice.
Yeah. These 2 movies were taken in more of a James Bond international intrigue style.
Well, that's kind of the DNA of the $6 Million Man, is whatever's going on and popular at the time. They kind of...
Yeah.
ham-fisted the show
He's
into that.
very Bond-like.
He didn't like it, though.
No. In the second, he travels to Egypt, almost dies, and eventually ends up in the Bahamas. The best is he almost dies because they're throwing depth charges at him while he's underwater. Like,
it's a dangerous business.
It's such a long sequence. It just goes on for so long. The third movie involves Paris and Peking. They also made Steve Austin a colonel in the U.S. Air Force, like in the first book. In the first TV movie, he was just a civilian pilot. Lee Majors said of Austin,
he hates the whole idea of spying. He finds it repugnant, degrading. If he's James Bond, he's the most reluctant one we've ever had.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I agree with him.
Yeah.
Like, especially with the series and how the series became. But, like, he doesn't need to be James Bond.
Steve is a victim of circumstance.
Yeah.
Steve is a test pilot and an astronaut who was thrust into the OSI because of his abilities. He didn't want to be a spy.
No.
And his morality doesn't really fit into that. And that's one of the great tropes of the series is he and Oscar are always button heads because Oscar is a scumbag.
So the series would end up doing away with the spy intrigue and make Steve Austin much more down to earth, which obviously is much more relatable to a TV audience.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just, he's just this guy who's forced to do stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's this one episode, the Christmas episode, okay? So Steve comes in to Oscar. He's got a big old gift. Mm-hmm. He's like, hey, Oscar, we're going for our annual Christmas lunch. And, sorry, pal, you're going to have to go on assignment. Wait, it's Christmas Eve. I'm heading to Ojai. Not this time, pal. You're going to go, this guy's. So basically, my favorite Martian, Ray Walston, it has this company where he's doing some test for NASA or OSI. Mm-hmm. And it keeps going wrong because he's basically Scrooge. So what happens is Steve goes. The funniest thing, too, is he's walking out with the present, and Oscar's like, hey, is that present for me? When Steve comes back, he's like, yeah, I got you something for Christmas. And he opens it up, it's a lamp, and then Steve takes the lamp and bends it. Just like, F you for ruining Christmas. And then at the end of the episode, he comes back and bends it back.
Of course he does.
But, so he goes to this company or whatever, and Dick Sargent or Dick York, whoever was the second Bewitched, Darren.
Yeah.
He is like the Cratchit. And so they're working at this plant and they're testing some sort of, pressurized whatevs. But Ray Walston is using the lowest, most bare minimum that he can because he's a money-grubbing jerk.
Sure.
Making everybody work on Christmas Eve. And his nephew, who is the guy from Bewitched,
right,
had to borrow money from him, like $8,000 because his wife was dying. So now he has to he's demoted him from like a scientist to his driver and just humiliates him and makes him work all the time. So not a happy place to be for Christmas. The kids, they don't have a tree or anything. So Steve jumps up, pops off the top of the tree, gives him the tree. And so what happens is somehow Ray Walston gets hurt or has a heart attack or something, has an incident.
Yeah.
And he's drugged up. And they're like, look, he's going to be out of it for a few hours, maybe hallucinating, blah, blah, blah. So Steve takes him out of the house and basically does a Christmas Carol.
Right.
Takes him all over, shows him these places. And then the best part is, after he's all done, the guy wakes up. He's like, that's nonsense. Doesn't believe any of it. And then something happens, and he does believe it, and he gets all the presents for the kids, and it's all a good thing. But it's just so weird that they made this whole Christmas Carol. This is why I love this show.
Right.
It's because it makes no sense. But somehow it made sense, and it worked.
Yeah. It was how. Yeah.
The Oscar Goldman's a grouch.
That second movie introduces Oscar Goldman. Steve is also a bit more of a dick in this TV movie than the first and during the series. I don't know if you remember this, but in the second, he purposely rigs a nuclear bomb to be unwittingly detonated by his pursuer in an inhabited part of Paradise K.
No, that's not too good.
No! The bomb is detonated as he looks on for what was portrayed to be a safe distance. It's literally like watching the sunset and the bomb goes off. It was like, okay, that's not the Steve Austin we want.
No. It's definitely against his character from then on. I mean, because he's like he's the perfect role model for kids.
Yeah.
A guy that does the right thing not always does the right thing.
Yeah.
But mostly, and when it counts. And, you know.
Well, he has to do the gray area sometimes, but it's to do the right thing.
Yeah, unless it's his ego. A lot of times he'll cheat for his ego.
When the weekly series began, the song by Glenn A. Larson was replaced by an instrumental theme by Oliver Nelson. So good. Nelson was an American jazz saxophonist, clarinetist, arranger, composer, and band leader. His 1961 Impulse album, The Blues and the Abstract Truth, is regarded as one of the most significant recordings of its era.
I think I have that album.
I bet you do. I bet it's up on the shelf somewhere. The first regular episode, Population Zero, which aired on January 18th of 1974, literally like 6 weeks after the third TV movie aired.
Things moved fast back then. It didn't take 2 years to make a show back then, man.
It introduced a new element to the opening sequence, a voiceover by Oscar Goldman stating the rationale behind creating a bionic man. A narrator, series producer Harvey Bennett, identifies the protagonist,
Steve Austin, astronaut, a man barely alive.
Richard Anderson, in character as Oscar Goldman, then intones off camera,
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. We have the capability to make the world's first bionic man. Steve Austin will be that man. Better than he was before. Better. Stronger. Faster.
During the first season, beginning with Population Zero, Anderson, as Goldman, intoned more simply,
We can rebuild him. We have the technology. We can make him better than he was. Better. Stronger. Faster.
During the operation, when he is having his bionics fitted, a list of items and numbers displayed, and his lists his powers plant as atomic.
Yeah, he's an atomic-powered bionic man.
Big old bomb walking around. So the cast, Steve Austin, played by Lee Majors, obviously is the lead character.
Lee Majors.
Lee Majors was fascinating. He was born Harvey Lee Yeary in Wyandotte, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit.
Ooh, that is definitely a serial killer's name.
Harvey Lee Yeary.
Harvey Lee Yeary. Found the torsos of 8 women in his hot tub.
The only thing more serial killery than that is his father's name, Carl Yeary.
Okay, that's pretty good.
But his mom, Alice, they were both killed in separate accidents.
Oh, my God.
His father died in a work accident 5 months prior to his birth.
Oh, my God.
So he never knew his dad. And his mother was killed in a car accident when he was almost 17 months old.
Good Lord.
Yeah, guy was orphaned. By the time he was a year and a half, he was orphaned.
Oh, my God.
At the age of 2, Majors was adopted by his aunt and uncle, Harvey and Mildred Yeary, and he moved with them to Middlesboro, Kentucky.
He totally could have been a serial killer with all that tragedy.
Yeah. He participated in track and football at Middlesboro High School. He graduated in 1957 and earned a scholarship to Indiana University, where he again competed in sports.
Oh, yeah. He totally looks like an athlete.
Oh, he's a total athlete, yeah. Majors transferred to Eastern Kentucky University in Richmond, Kentucky in 1959.
He is really the all-American dude.
He is. He is. He played in his first football game the following year, but suffered a severe back injury, which left him paralyzed for 2 weeks and ruined his college athletic career.
Dude's been through it.
The middleman just crank. It's bad.
Just like so many actors or athletes turn actors. Just shows you how easy this job is. By the way.
That's true. Following his injury, he turned his attention to acting and performed in plays at the Pioneer Playhouse in Danville, Kentucky.
How many times have you said that sentence, by the way,
lot.
over the last 3 years? After failed in sports, he turned his attention to acting, where he was extremely successful.
Majors graduated from Eastern Kentucky in 1962 with a degree in history and physical education. He actually planned to be a football coach.
He'd been a good one.
He would have been a great one. After college, he received an offer to try out for the St. Louis Cardinals football team. Instead, he moved to Los Angeles and found work at the Los Angeles Park and Recreation Department as the recreation director for North Hollywood Park.
Hey, that's where I used to live.
You live right across the street.
I did.
Yeah.
Well, it's now
Not at
Amelia
that time.
Earhart Park.
Yeah.
The
Amelia Earhart Park is the one north. The North Hollywood Park is the one right across from you.
Oh, so they're
actually separate parks.
Oh,
Yeah.
Very close.
Yeah. In Los Angeles, Majors met many actors and industry professionals, including Dick Clayton, who had been James Dean's agent, and Clayton suggested he attend his acting school.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. Hey, you should attend my acting school, buddy. You have a good look.
Yeah.
But back then it was probably $5 a week.
Yeah. After 1 year of acting school, Clayton felt that Majors was ready to start his career.
You ready, buddy?
So weird.
Well, that's actually, weird. But that's, most of these acting, well, at least today, or in my experience, most of these acting teachers, I'm doing the quoties, that have these, that have these kind of group classes every week, kind of turn into cults, and they become de facto managers that you're paying for.
But they never, they're just like, keep coming and paying me. You're never ready.
Yeah,
at least
that's what I'm saying.
This guy is smart enough to be like, look, I'm an agent. I can make money off of you. Like, go work.
He has the pipeline, baby.
Exactly. At this time, he picked up the stage name Lee Majors as a tribute to childhood hero Johnny Majors, who was a player and future coach for the University of Tennessee.
Johnny Majors.
Majors also studied at Estelle Harmon's acting school at MGM. Yeah.
Okay.
Majors got his big break when he was chosen out of over 400 young actors, including Burt Reynolds, for the co-starring role of Heath Barkley in a new ABC 4-star Western series, The Big Valley, which starred Barbara Stanwyck.
Yep. And his brother on that show, Pernell Roberts, I think his name is.
That sounds right.
He was the older brother of the whatever their name is. What's their name?
The Barkleys.
The Barkleys.
Yeah.
And he ended up coming on the Bionic Man.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And they had a little bit of a, do I know you from somewhere?
Yeah. Of course,
that little fun thing.
You gotta have that little aside, that fourth wall break for the audience.
But what's funny is because of the Bionic Man, I went back as a kid, and because they played the Big Valley reruns all the time.
Yeah.
I would watch it because of Lee Majors.
One of Heath's frequently used expressions during the series was,
"Boy, howdy."
That was really good. Big Valley was an immediate hit and ran for 112 episodes over 4 seasons from 65 to 69.
Yeah, it was just basically a Bonanza clone, and instead of having Pa, they had Ma.
Right.
And, the brothers. It was good. It was a good knockoff.
Yeah.
But I just loved those Western shows back then because they were just
they were
goofy.
Huge at that time. Huge.
The Rifleman was great.
Have Gun Will Travel?
Well, I don't know if that was
in the 50s. That was actually much earlier.
Was that a Western?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that one. I didn't watch like the old stuff.
Yeah.
But I would watch Bonanza, and I would watch The Big Valley, and Gunsmoke, of course.
Oh yeah, Gunsmoke. Gunsmoke.
With a young Clint Eastwood.
Oh.
It was rowdy.
During the series, Majors co-starred in the 1968 Charlton Heston film Will Penny, for which he received an introducing credit, and landed the lead role in The Ballad of Andy Crocker, a made-for-television film which was first broadcast by ABC.
Will Penny's really good.
Oh, yeah? I've not seen it. The film was one of the first films to deal with... The Ballad of Andy Crocker was one of the first films to deal with the subject matter of Vietnam veterans coming home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Early on. That same year, he was offered the chance to star in Midnight Cowboy, but The Big Valley was renewed for another season, and he was forced to decline the role, which later went to Jon Voight.
Wow. What a different career he would have had.
What a different movie that would have been. I mean, he would have been fantastic in it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, very different career.
Yeah. Because it would have made him a movie star, and unfortunately, he never hit it in the movies. He was a definite TV star, and one of the biggest at the time.
Yeah.
But it was much more difficult back then to transition from TV to film, and then if you went from film to TV, then that was considered a failure.
Oh yeah, they thought you were losing your mojo.
Now it's different.
Now it doesn't matter.
Now TV's the good stuff, and film's crap.
When The Big Valley was canceled in 1969, he signed a long-term contract with Universal Studios. Majors was called a
blonde Elvis Presley
because of his resemblance to Elvis during this period of his career.
He always had that eyebrow. He had the eyebrow sticking up.
Oh, yeah, always that eyebrow, yeah. After The $6 Million Man in 1981, Majors returned in another long-running television series.
Oh, we're doing this one too, baby.
I know.
Because I loved it.
Producer Glenn A. Larson asked him to star in the pilot of The Fall Guy. Majors played Colt Seavers, a Hollywood stuntman who moonlights as a bounty hunter.
God, Colt Seavers. It's so 80s. It's so 80s. And he had a perm. He kept the perm from season 5. I think it was a hairpiece by then. I'm not positive.
Probably. Majors was also a producer and a director on the show and even sang its theme song, the self-effacing Unknown Stuntman.
I don't mean to kiss and tell, but I've been seen with Farrah. I'm the unknown stuntman who made Eastwood such a star.
is that?
Boodaloop, boodaloop, boodaloop,
Okay, now
boodaloop,
granted, I will say I've
boodaloop.
never seen 1 second of The Fall Guy, so maybe it'll make more sense. once I've
You're
seen the
missing
show.
out, man.
Well, look, we're going to cover it eventually.
Heather Thomas, one of the blondes of the 80s that everybody had a poster of up on there.
I was like 3 when this came
Yeah,
out.
you missed out.
Yeah. So The Fall Guy ran for 5 seasons until it was canceled in 1986.
Great thing about the Fall Guy, too, is it would always kind of start out with a stunt, and it would have real actors from real shows.
yeah,
So he would be
yeah.
on, like, Heart to Heart.
Right,
And he would
right.
be doing a stunt for Robert
yeah.
Wagner. And Robert
Right.
Wagner would be like, hey, Colt, thanks for coming in and doing it. It's okay. I'm
Nice.
always here for you, buddy. And then he would do the stunt, and then somehow, like, the stunt would come back later.
Right.
And, you know, he would have to use that to foil his bounty when he was bounty hunting.
Right.
Oh, and they're doing a remake of that.
Yeah.
That's coming out, I think, this year with...
Ryan Gosling.
Oh yeah, it is. I thought I was going to say Joseph
It's coming out.
Gordon-Levitt.
It's coming out this year. Ryan Gosling. Yeah, and he's
in it.
He's starring as Colt Seavers.
He's playing him.
Yeah.
God, I love him. I love that he's.
I'm
still
excited.
acting.
I'm excited.
Whoa.
We'll definitely have to cover it around the time when the movie comes out.
Yes.
He does continue to work, obviously, at age 84, doing a lot of voiceover work and occasionally guest appearances on Guy Fieri shows, of all things.
I like going to Flavortown.
Apparently he does.
Not too spicy. I'm 84.
He did a lot of voiceover work for Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and he played... Didn't he play... That was... I just sent you that meme this morning. It was in the Evil Dead show. He played Bruce Campbell's dad.
Yes. Well, he also was in The Brothers Solomon. That movie. He played the father of
Will Forte.
Yes, and then there was somebody else.
Yeah.
That was the other brher.
I mean, he's still working. Like, he's obviously still out and about and doing stuff. But
He was great in that. I think he was in a coma for most of that, though. And he got him out of it. But it was still like he's sharp as a tack, man, and he looks great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
he's 84. He looks great.
But he was a really good first hero for me.
Yeah.
Because it really taught you empathy and, you know, it didn't matter if the person was a man or a woman or black or white or Native American. He was always on the side of what was right.
Right.
And not in a way that was goopy and cloying and
condescending.
sentimental.
Yeah.
It was just done in a perfect way. And I think most of that has to do with his acting and the way he portrayed the character.
Yeah.
Because he was very good at playing a good guy without being a Boy Scout kind of. You know what I mean? Like not being a goody-goody, but still always doing the right thing.
Right. And that's why he didn't like the James Bond stuff, because it went too far the other direction.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you know, Steve Austin wouldn't do this.
It's just more interesting for him to be thrust into a situation where he doesn't really know what's going on and he's there to help.
Right.
You know, it was the beginning. I mean, not the beginning, because I think since the beginning of TV, we've always had the lone hero wandering the plains trying to help people, going from town to town, place to place.
Have gun will travel.
Yeah, exactly. So, but this was kind of that, but it, you know, again, it was he was always assigned to something, or
He didn't always want to do the stuff, but when he was there, he was like, well, I'm going to do what's right, and I'm going to do it.
The great thing too is, like, whenever it was ended, you know, he saved the town or whatever. And Oscar would be like, all right, pal, come on, let's go back to work. Oh, no, Oscar, I'm going to stay here for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Just relax. And he would just stay.
Just hang out.
And hang out.
That's so great.
Sit on the great ending in one of these, just sitting on stairs with this woman, gossiping about the people in town, because he knows them all now.
Yeah.
It was just those fun little touches.
Yeah. Oscar Goldman was played by Richard Anderson, director of the OSI.
Not Richard Dean Anderson.
No, different. Anderson began his career in 1950 as an MGM contract player, appearing in movies such as Forbidden Planet in 1956 as Chief Engineer Quinn.
Oh, yeah.
Paths of Glory in 1957, written and directed by Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, he was great in that. And that's, if you haven't seen that movie.
Oh, so good. And The Long Hot Summer in 1958, starring Paul Newman.
Oh, yeah. He was a solid contract player, a solid character actor.
In the 1960s, Anderson made appearances in 23 episodes of Perry Mason during the series' final season as Police Lieutenant Steve Drum, replacing the character of Lieutenant Tragg, played by Ray Collins, who died in 1965, sorry.
Yeah, man. The worst part of being homesick was the hour that Perry Mason was on. It was so anathema to anything kids liked.
Yeah.
And, you know, watching it older, and I loved the remake. I think it's a crime that they canceled it. Yeah. But who's says love? Who's says he? Yes. I will tell you this. the episodes that Oscar Goldman was on, I would watch happily because
Oh yeah,
it was
he's
my
great.
$6 million man connection.
He was good foil.
He's guilty, Your Honor. Every single episode. It didn't matter what happened in the courtroom. It didn't matter what happened in the trial and the investigations. At the very end, somebody would stand up and be like, well, I did it, and I'm glad that I did it. Or Perry Mason would turn, it's not him, Your Honor. It's that man in the back of the courtroom conveniently watching me.
I mean, might as well just do Scooby-Doo, pull the mask off
Exactly.
and get mad that the kids ruined everything.
I preferred Ironside.
Yeah. So Richard Anderson also appeared on many TV shows, including
The Untouchables, Wagon Train, The Rifleman, Daniel Boone, Thriller, The 11th Hour, Ready Go, Combat, 12 O'Clock High, I Spy, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., The Fugitive, The Wild Wild West, Bonanza, The Green Hornet, The Invaders, and The Big Valley. All great shows.
Yeah. He appeared in the television movie The Night Strangler as the villain, Dr. Richard Malcolm, starring Darren McGavin, the sequel to The Night Stalker, the precursor to Kolchak, the TV series, which we've also done an episode on. You should listen to that.
Ooh, I need to watch that movie.
It is so good. The Night Strangler is so good.
What's it on?
It's
it's streaming?
YouTube. You gotta find it on YouTube. But it's the same guy who did the Night Stalker one, so it's crisp and it looks amazing.
Oh, okay.
But he's like essentially like this vampire, but he's like 150 years old, and like but I did not realize it was the same guy.
Was he like, I'm gonna suck your blood, pal?
It was weird. He drank like concoctions, it was weird. Anyway, it was really good. In the 1980s, he stayed busy working on
Charlie's Angels, Matt Houston, Knight Rider, Remington Steele, Cover Up, The A-Team, The Fall Guy, Simon and Simon, and Murder, She Wrote.
Unfortunately, Anderson died on August 31st, 2017, from natural causes in Beverly Hills at the age of 91.
It's a good run.
He went a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, watching him in this, that means that he was probably in his 40s?
Yeah.
Maybe late 30s, 40s?
No.
He just seems, 91 in 2017. So he would have been born he would have been
40s.
He went in his 40s.
Yeah.
He just seems older. I don't know. It's just
Everybody did.
Yeah.
We all looked older. You look at high school pictures from the 60s. Everybody looks like they're 45 years old. And people say that about the 80s now, too, which is weird, but I guess it's true.
I just saw a high school photo of Harrison Ford his senior year, and he looks older than he does now.
Well, I think that's impossible.
Rudy Wells, Austin's physician and primary overseer of the medical aspects of bionic technology, was actually played by 3 different people. Wells was played by Martin Balsam in the first TV movie.
Yes.
Alan Oppenheimer played Wells in the second and third TV movies and in seasons 1 to 3. The character wasn't a regular. He only appeared in 1 episode in season 1, 7 episodes in season 2, and 1 episode in season 3. Strangely enough, the 1 episode in season 3 where he played Dr. Rudy Wells was in episode 9, after the next guy had already appeared as Dr. Rudy Wells in the first 2 episodes of the season.
Martin E. Brooks.
Yes, Martin E. Brooks.
Oh, they're all good, though.
So weird.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I mean, I just don't know if they filmed it differently or if maybe just Martin E. Brooks wasn't available.
Well, what happened was he wasn't that Dr. Rudy Wells wasn't a big part of the series at the beginning, but then as the series went along, he became
he was a huge part of it.
Like, he would end up going in season 5. He was always going out.
Yes,
with
as soon as
Steve.
they got Martin E. Brooks in, he became a regular character. Yeah.
Like in the Sharks 2-parter, he was in the submersible thing, and he was gonna die, and he had to save him.
Oh,
It was and they had and then Pamela Hensley from Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, who was on the show quite a bit actually, as different characters. She could control shark.
Oh.
She had a shark that she had a little.
She had a remote control shark?
And she could somehow control this shark. This giant man-eater. It was not.
They don't. Look, that was one of my favorite things about the show is, like, Population Zero, the first episode of the series, just randomly the guy has, like, a sonic ray that makes people essentially die. But then they're not dead. When he turns it off, they just come back.
Well, so there's a submarine down, and these guys are stealing the submarine and stealing all the missiles and stuff, and they need to drop down a nuke to blow it up so they can't get the stuff. But Steve's down there, and the doctor's trapped in the submersible thing.
They were way too willy-nilly with nukes. In the book, the first Bigfoot episode, when they were like, all these earthquakes are happening, and he's like, the earthquake expert's like, we should put a nuke over in this one and just blow it up, and then it'll be fine. And it's like, what?
Steve, you need to get 5 feet away from there. We're going to detonate a nuke.
It's like, what? That just seems like a bad idea.
This really seems odd. What about the wildlife?
So Alan Oppenheimer, who played Wells for the second part of the series, or for middle part of the series, I should say. He's best known for his voice work. He was a staple on Saturday morning cartoons, appearing in He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, She-Ra, Ghostbusters, The Smurfs, Frady Cat Pound Puppies, Battle of the Planets, The Transformers, and Thundar the Barbarian.
Thundar the Barbarian!
He was also the narrator for The Neverending Story in 1984.
Alan Oppenheimer is awesome. I don't know if he's related to Oppenheimer, which would be kind of funny since they do a lot of nuke stuff on.
I don't know if he is or not.
He's his son.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just going to
say
it.
We're going to go with it.
Alan Oppenheimer was.
Look, the timing works.
It does. It does. His dad was really pissed that he didn't go into the family business.
Yeah, but your show, you got to add in nukes. Add in as many nukes as you can.
I'll forgive you if there's a lot of sloppy nuke storylines.
So at the age of 93, Oppenheimer can be heard in the Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers feature film, which was released in 2022, and in the 2 new Masters of the Universe shows on Netflix. He is still alive, and he is still doing voiceover.
I love it. Was that the Chip 'n Dale with...
the one that was one was animated, one was CG,
right? With Andy Samberg.
Yeah. I surprisingly really liked that Chip 'n Dale movie.
It was fun. It was because of the 2 leads.
Martin E. Brooks, when he came on, he played Dr. Rudy Wells in season 3 to 5. Brooks appeared in the first 2 episodes of season 3, and then almost all of season 4 and 5, making appearances in 45 episodes.
Yeah, they really threw old Dr. Rudy Wells in every situation.
He would also play the same character in 45 episodes of The Bionic Woman, as well as the 3 TV movies that eventually followed,
right?
Which we'll get to in a little bit. Brooks had a lot of success in TV, starting in 1951 with Sure as Fate, an anthology mystery drama. And he made guest appearances in almost 60 TV shows between 51 and 72, until he won a recurring role on Macmillan and Wife.
Yeah, as the wife, strangely enough.
He's got a very broad range. He
played abroad. There's your dad joke.
He only appeared in 5 feature films during his career. This blows my mind. Johnny Gunman in 1957, a drama.
Of course. With a name like Johnny Gunman.
Colossus, the Forbin Project in 1970, about an AI computer that decides to end warfare worldwide.
Nice.
Kind of a precursor to war games.
Right.
The Man in 1972, starring James Earl Jones and written by Rod Serling.
Imagine if you will.
A man. The Man.
The Man.
And then he was in 2 movies later. After 72, he was in no feature films for like 22 years. Then he was in T-Force in 1984, a film set in the near future about a group of law enforcement cyborgs called Cybernauts, which after being threatened with their shutdown, rebel against their superiors and the authorities.
Of course.
Very awful B-movie. And then Street Gun in 1996, a terrible-looking mob movie appearing as, quote-unquote, man thrown off roof.
No.
That was the last role Brooks would play, retiring from acting shortly thereafter.
I'm done with this. Man on roof. I used to be on the $6 Million Man, damn it. I was Dr. Rudy Wells.
He died on December 7th, 2015, of natural causes at his home in Studio City, 1 week after his 90th birthday.
Good Lord. This show has such longevity.
Yes.
My God.
All the actors. This is the thing. You do TV, you live a long time.
Well, Lee Major's still alive.
Yeah. All these other guys living in their 90s.
Lindsay Wagner's still alive.
Alan Oppenheimer's still around.
Yeah, man.
Jamie Summers, speaking of Lindsay Wagner, she appeared in 9 episodes of The $6 Million Man, starting with her 2-episode arc, introducing her as the Bionic Woman.
Yeah. Oh, don't go skydiving with Steve Austin.
Oh my God, that episode, that was terrifying. She would get her own show, The Bionic Woman, in 1976, during season 4 of The $6 Million Man. She would make a couple more appearances on The $6 Million Man, including the amazing Bigfoot episodes, which the return of Bigfoot Part 1 was on The $6 Million Man, and the return of Bigfoot Part 2 was on The Bionic Woman.
They also did a lot of weird things where, like, there was this one episode where a gymnast, a Russian gymnast, I think played by Kathy Rigby, I'm not sure. She was a very popular gymnast at the time. And so at the beginning of the episode, Oscar and Jamie and Steve are all talking, and Oscar's like, Steve, you're going to have to babysit the Russian gymnast and blah, blah, blah. And Jamie's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Just go back to, I'm just going to go back to Ojai to my kids. Call me if you have a hot male gymnast that you need looked after. He. And that was it. She was there for like 6 seconds.
Well, that was even the Bigfoot episode. Like, she was in the beginning and then wasn't in the rest of the episode.
It was just a phone call. Should I come help? No.
And then she had her own like adventure with Bigfoot or something. I have actually seen I did see part 2. She wasn't really in that either. No. Anyway, it was weird. The whole thing was weird. She actually started as a model in Los Angeles before signing a contract with Universal Studios. Her primetime network television debut was in the series Adam 12.
One Adam 12.
And she went on to appear in a dozen other Universal shows, including...
Owen Marshall, Counselor at Law, The FBI, Sarge, and Night Gallery.
Between 71 and 75, she appeared in 5 episodes of Universal's Marcus Welby, MD, and 2 episodes of The Rockford Files.
She was great on that.
Yeah. Over her career, Wagner has appeared in over 50 TV movies and almost 20 feature films. If
I remember correctly, I think there might have been a little romance action between the two of them, and that was... He was like 50 and she was 20. Back then, it was fine, I guess.
She was so young. She was so pretty. So young.
Yeah.
I mean, even... And obviously, the stuff between, Steve Austin and Jamie Summers, but she still was pretty much younger than him.
4 years, because
really?
Yeah, because she was a freshman, and the whole joke was that she was too young for him because he was a senior and she was a freshman
on the show. But I'm talking about in real life.
Yes, but they didn't play it
right.
They played it as just.
You just had to believe the fact that he was just super young.
Well, he was. I mean, he was in his 30s when he started this. He just has that older look.
Yeah,
but. According to show lore,
yes,
he's only 3 or 4 years older.
Yeah, because they were. Yes,
they grew up together.
They grew up together, essentially. Yeah,
they were best friends. They never hooked,
and he had to get her. Well,
he loved her. She loved him.
He did, but even then, just showing how good of a guy he was when she doesn't remember who he is after her horrible accident.
Okay, so we have to explain this. So when Jamie, the two-parter. So Steve goes back to Ojai, buys a house, starts fixing it up, reconnects with Jamie.
His parents? I think his parents are there. Is that his parents?
His mom and his stepdad.
Stepdad, okay.
Who he calls dad. He's got a very close relationship with his stepdad. I think that's another reason why I liked him, because he had a stepdad. But he had a much better stepdad than I did. But so he fixes up this house and he reconnects with Jamie, and they're falling in love.
But she's seeing somebody.
Oh, for about 2 seconds, and then she tells when he goes and stalkerly spies on her while she's on her date. Yeah, you're on a date. What? That's when I told him goodbye. So she dumps this poor son of a bitch she's dating for a while, and then so they get together. They start dating. They get engaged, and everybody's happy, and the wedding's about to come, and everybody's super happy because Jamie and Steve, everybody thought they were going to get together all the time, and Jamie and Steve, and his mom is just over the moon. So, to celebrate, they go skydiving. Jamie's chute doesn't open. She plummets to the earth and smashes into the ground.
Oh, my God. It's horrifying.
Destroying her legs and conveniently an arm. And her ear.
An ear.
Not her eye.
Somehow punctures an eardrum or something while she's falling.
So, Steve basically begs Oscar to bionicize her.
Yeah.
And Oscar's like, look, pal, if we do this, she's going to work for... I mean, he's not... doing it because he's best friend.
He's like, yeah, you already owe us, and now you're going to owe us even more.
And she's going to owe us too.
Yeah.
So ain't no free lunches in the OSI, baby. So they bionicize her, and she's in a coma, and she dies. She rejects the bionic.
She literally dies.
And she dies. And
end of episode.
Steve's devastated. So...
and then there's like 5-6 episodes where she's just dead.
Yes.
She's just dead.
So then there's another episode
The return of the
Bionic Woman. And we find out that she's been in a coma, and Steve loses his ass.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Never seen
Loses
him
his
madder on the show.
I have never seen a man roll a wheelchair faster than he did going to go see Jamie.
What's really funny, though, is he has one bionic arm. He would just be going in circles. Same thing when he's paddling a canoe. He'd be going in circles because one arm is...
But it's just the best was that it just the whole time... It went on for like 5 minutes. Just kept going.
So he's like, Oscar, you tell me where she... I mean, he's like, you have 3 seconds or I'm going to...
I've never seen him more mad.
Punch you in the face.
So mad.
And he's... Oh. And so finally he finds her and she doesn't know who he is.
She doesn't have memory.
She has what everybody in the 70s had at one time or another on TV, amnesia.
Ooh.
And this wasn't the kind of amnesia that you could cure with a coconut drop on the head.
No.
Like on Gilligan.
Although they should have tried that.
They should have. Well, that was, how many coconuts dropped on her head to get the amnesia? None. Oh, this is a non-coconut amnesia? How irregular. So she doesn't know who he is. And I guess it's somehow dangerous to let her know what's going on.
Yeah, they kind of glossed over a lot of that.
So the doctor who's helping her, who's a friend of Steve's, by the way, starts romancing her and right in front of him and smooching and stuff. And he's like, sorry, Steve, but you know.
She's making her choice.
It's I don't really want her. It's just helping her get better. And it's like, sure thing, buddy. Yeah. Okay.
Best bedside manner ever.
Gross. So, but then Steve's just like, hey, whatever makes her happy.
He decides that he needs to let her be her, and that if she doesn't want him, then he's just, that's it.
And he tries. He takes her, which is really stupid. He takes her back to Ojai without telling anybody or telling her
ruins
why.
Almost all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then people are like, "Is that Jamie Summers?"
Oh, yeah. By the way, she was a very famous tennis player.
Yes.
So people knew who she was.
There are 2 famous people that came out of Ojai: astronaut Steve Austin, and tennis pro Jamie Summers.
But somehow no one's going to recognize her.
Let's go to be incognito in the place where we're the most famous in the world.
She barely steps on a tennis court and immediately guy's like, oh my God, it's Jamie Summers.
Right. So she kind of, every time she starts to remember something, it hurts her really bad.
Yeah.
So the more she learns about Steve, basically her love will kill her. So Steve has to let go. And he does. And he does in a way that isn't, he's just like, whatever's best for her. He's such a, not a martyr, but he puts himself last, but not in a way that's, I'm a sad sack or whatever. He just does the right thing because it's the right reason. And so for the entire 5 seasons and the 3 seasons of her show or whatever, this whole thing's going on.
Well, it was the beginning of season 4,
right?
Where, because essentially the Return of the Bionic Woman on the $6 Million Man was the backdoor pilot for her show.
Sure.
And the best, though, the absolute best, was that after those 2 episodes, she goes off to do her own show.
Yep.
She makes appearances once in a while.
Sure.
The Bigfoot
and, he did
all
too.
That stuff. And they would cross over a little bit. But the way that he seems like he got over her was that the very next episode in season 4, he grew a mustache.
Yeah. This is my grieving mustache.
But they literally mention it, and he was kind of gives a weird look of yep.
Hey,
I'm
trying to be Burt Reynolds.
Now I'm going to say, and I don't want to spoil anything, but literally that plot line from the beginning of season 4 is not resolved.
No.
Until the final TV movie in 1994.
The very end of the Bionic.
20 years later, almost 20 years later.
Poor son of a bitch. And it's not like he hooks up, kind of, but it's very vague. So it's not like Magnum, who was obsessed with his dead wife for the entire show.
Right.
He still dated women and had relationships. Or Garner.
Right. He didn't pine after her the entire time.
But I don't think Steve really had any relationships. He had a couple of flings and stuff. I mean, every time Farrah Fawcett Majors, his wife, would show up, they would have a little smoochy smooch.
Well, yeah.
But he was true to her, and it's just, he always put everyone above him, but not in a martyr, self-sacrifice kind of way.
Right.
Just because he knew it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. So Lindsay Wagner would earn an Emmy Award in 1977 for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Dramatic Role for her role in the Bionic Woman television series, a first First for a science fiction series.
Yeah.
Ever. That's incredible.
Yeah, well, the 70s, as we talked about with film and TV, 70s kind of after 2001: Space Odyssey, people started taking science fiction more seriously, and it wasn't the redheaded stepchild.
Right.
You know, it wasn't the man with the giant brain.
Right.
Or,
I mean, Star Wars was nominated for Best Picture.
right.
Yeah.
And rightly so.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. Wagner was actually scheduled to be a passenger on American Airlines Flight 191 from Chicago to Los Angeles on May 25th, 1979, but suddenly felt very ill while waiting for the plane, so she skipped the flight, which crashed only minutes after takeoff, killing all 271 people on board and 2 people on the ground, the deadliest aviation accident to have occurred in the United States.
That stuff is fascinating to me, the people that have some sort of premonition or some sort of situation. I think Seth MacFarlane's supposed to be on one of the 9/11 planes.
Yeah. The thing is that I did a weird, because I didn't really know anything about this flight in 191, and I went down a weird rabbit hole. There's apparently video of this happening. They've never released it. They've only released the audio between the tower and the plane, but it literally was in the just seconds after taking off, and then it crashed into houses.
What was crazy too was for years afterwards, all these weird kind of Rube Goldberg things trying to kill Lindsay Wagner would happen because it was supposed to be her final destination.
They actually based Final Destination off of Lindsay Wagner on Flight 191.
And her subsequent experience with...
she just wakes up and goes, "Ah!
Yeah.
I thought I was on a plane!"
She survived it. Survived all those attempts.
More recently, she's appeared in Warehouse 13, Fuller House, and Grey's Anatomy.
Warehouse 13 was a fun show. Did you ever watch that?
I never watched it. It was
really
one of those I wanted to, but then it just kind of fell by the wayside.
It was in the heyday of the Sci-Fi Network when they had like Eureka and Warehouse 13.
Yeah, the shows that were fun.
Very fun. Yeah, I miss those shows.
In June 2018, it was announced that Wagner would co-star in Death Stranding. Wagner lent her likeness to the characters Bridget and Amelie Strand and voiced the former, with Emily O'Brien voicing the latter and a younger version of the former.
Yeah, it was crazy to see her pop up in that.
I did not get far enough into it to have Lindsay Wagner appear in the game. It was her first role in video game and her first experience with the industry's motion capture, and voice acting technology. Glad we got a bloop. She's still acting. She's still working. She's still doing stuff.
Yeah, she's great. She was probably my first super crush.
Oh, yeah, I totally see
as
why.
a kid.
Are you kidding me?
And I've had a crush on her ever since, and even to this day. I mean, she's...
Her introduction in The $6 Million Man, she is the most charming person alive.
Oh, she's great.
So Farrah Fawcett actually played 3 different characters over 4 episodes in The $6 Million Man.
Very wildly different characters, too.
She was married to Lee Majors from 1973 to 1982. He actually lobbied for her to be the Bionic Woman, but the producers passed in favor of Lindsay Wagner.
Yeah, it was a good... Lindsay Wagner is the girl next door, and Farrah Fawcett is the unattainable goddess of the time.
Yeah, and having... Around that time is when she was in Logan's Run, and having seen her acting ability, I'm glad they went with Lindsay Wagner.
She was good in The $6 Million Man, though.
Sure.
Voice went up really high on that.
Sorry. So, random speed bump. Did you know if you knew this? The song "Midnight Train to Georgia" by Jim Weatherly. You know, "Midnight Train to Georgia." Yeah, it was a huge hit for Glass Knight and the Pips. It was actually based on Lee Majors and Farrah Fawcett's relationship, although highly fictionized.
Weird.
Here's the thing. Weatherly had called Majors a friend to chat, and Fawcett had answered the phone saying she was going to be taking a midnight train to Houston, and Weatherly liked the idea. And actually, for a long time, it was Midnight Train to Houston until a producer changed it to Midnight Train to Georgia.
It sounds a lot better. Midnight Train to Houston.
But that song is about Lee Majors and Farrah Fawcett.
That's crazy.
It's weird. It's just weird. Other notable guest stars on The $6 Million Man include...
Joanne Worley, Joe Kapp, Lloyd Bachner, John Saxon, Greg Morris, Gary Lockwood, William Shatner, George Takei, Noah Barry Jr., Monte Markham, George Foreman, Jack Colvin, Dick Van Patten, Dana Plato in her professional debut, Chuck Connors, Sonny Bono, Eric Estrada, Larry Sonka, Dick Butkus, Carl Weathers, Louis Gossett Jr., Stephanie Powers, Andre the Giant, Sandy Duncan, One Eye, Flip Wilson, Elkie Summer, Frank Gifford. Is it?
It's Gifford.
Thank you. Joan Van Ark, Bernie Capel, Kim Bassinger, Gerald McRaney, Jenny Agatur, Robert Loggia, Rick Springfield in his professional debut, Susan Summers, and John Delancey. Also, Rodney Allen Rippey.
I don't know who's Rodney.
Rodney Allen Rippey was this huge child star. He started out doing commercials. He was in these Burger King commercials, Have It Your Way.
Okay.
And he was in the episode I was telling you about where Steve is undercover as a longshoreman.
Oh, yeah.
And he's staying at like this halfway house. And the woman who owns it, Rodney Allen Rippey, is her kid. And he comes up crying, and his bike is all mangled. And Steve's like, what happened? What's wrong? And he's like, my bike, a truck ran over my bike, and it's ruined. It'll never be fixed. And then Steve's like, well, you got to believe. You got to believe in miracles. You got to believe in the spirits. And he's like, the spirits? And he's like, yeah, believe in the spirits. Believe in miracles. And so it's like, not anything about God. It's just the spirits, which was so odd. But that's the 70s for you, non-denominational. And so the kid's outside eating a sandwich, Rodney Allen Rippey. And he's like, come on, spirits, fix my bike. Come on, spirits, come on, spirits. And his mom's like, what's going on? He's like, I got to think about the spirits to get a miracle. And she's like, why are you telling my kid about the spirits? Getting his hopes up or whatever. So, of course, Steve bends the bike back in, and he's like, the spirits helped. And then, but it's not done. His friend, who's a bully, is like, fix my bike. And so Rodney Allen Rippey's like, it doesn't work that way if it's not. They only fix my bike because I believe in the spirits, and you don't believe in the spirits. He's like, I don't care. Either fix my bike or I'm going to kill you. And so he's really sad. And then, so the kid's mom, I know this is so convoluted, but this is the show. So the kid's mom gets kidnapped, of course, by the bad guys. And Steve comes and he's like, where's your mom? He's like, oh, they took her. And he's like, you got anywhere you could stay? And then the bully shows up and he's like, hey, kid, take him home with you. And he's like, no, I'm not taking him home with me until he fixes my bike, until the spirits fix my bike. He's like, look, they'll fix your bike. And then they were like best friends. I don't know. It was just weird, and it made no sense. But somehow it worked.
Yeah.
But that's a Rodney Allen Rippey.
That's the $6 million man.
Yes, exactly.
To maintain the show's plausibility, producer Kenneth Johnson set very specific limits on Steve Austin's abilities. He elaborated.
When you're dealing with the area of fantasy, if you say, well, they're bionic so they can do whatever they want, then it gets out of hand. So you got to have really, really, really tight rules. Steve and Jamie can jump up to 2 stories, but not 3. They can jump down 3 stories, but not 4.
Oh.
Okay.
All right. Well, look, I like a show in a movie that sets its own rules and then lives by those rules.
Well, it didn't. It broke them all the time, by the way. He jumped way more than 3 stories.
Austin's superhuman enhancements are a bionic left eye, which has a 20.2 to 1 zoom lens along with night vision function, as well as the restoration of normal vision.
That's what it sounded like when you looked at it.
It did. The figure of 20.2 to 1 is taken from the faux computer graphics in the opening credits.
You can also use it as like a scanner to find computer chips.
Yeah, he does eventually. Yeah, he does with his
gets
arm.
all these other powers. That
the figure 20 to 1 is mentioned twice in the series in the episode Population Zero and Secret of Bigfoot.
Secret of Bigfoot.
Austin's bionic eye also has other features such as an infrared filter used frequently to see in the dark and also to detect heat, as in the episode The Pioneers, and the ability to view humanoid beings moving too fast for the normal eye to see, as in the story arc The Secret of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Which, again, was an insanely convoluted episode.
So good.
One early episode shows the eye as a deadly accurate targeting device for his throwing arm. Which, man, did he throw stuff hard with that arm.
Oh, man. They must have had like a catapult or something. It must have been so much fun to to shoot B-roll on that. Because you were just like, all right, now we get to fling a tire 40,000 feet.
Population Zero, when he finally realizes where the guy is with the weird sonic device that's killing everybody.
Right.
They're in a van. And so what does he do? He doesn't run up to the van. He just starts throwing like giant rocks at it.
Yeah.
And he throws like 50. Like it's just over and over. And the guys inside are like, what is that?
Yeah. No, there were a lot of rocks.
A lot of things to be thrown. One early episode, I just said that. In Caidin's original novels, Austin's eye was depicted as simply a camera, which had to be physically removed after use. removed, and Austin remained blind in the eye.
Okay.
Later, Austin gained the ability to shoot a laser from the eye. This was in the books. The Charlton Comics comic book spinoff from the series also established that Austin's bionic eye could shoot a laser beam, as demonstrated in the first issues of the color comic, but neither function was shown on television.
Yeah, it would have been too goofy.
Too far. 3 stories, not 2. He had bionic legs. These allow him to run at tremendous speed and make great leaps. And his tremendous speed was so slow.
Oh, yeah. Well, they realized it looked super goofy if they did the speed up.
Of all the episodes I watched, I only saw once where they did the speed up.
There was maybe 3 times.
He had a guy in a wheelbarrow, and it looked like it was Keystone Cops. Yeah. It was so not good.
And they had a couple of times where they showed him running fast, but it didn't work. So everything he did was in slow motion with
his upper speed limit was never firmly established, although a speed of 60 miles an hour is commonly quoted, since this figure is shown on a speed gauge during the opening credits.
Yep.
The highest speed ever shown in the series on a speed gauge is 67 miles per hour in the episode The Palmyra Escort. However, the later revival film suggested he could run approximately 90 miles an hour.
Pretty fast.
A faster top speed is possible, as an episode of The Bionic Woman spinoff entitled Winning is Everything shows female cyborg Jamie Summers outrunning a race car going 100 miles an hour. She's fast. In The Secret of Bigfoot, it's stated he can leap 30 feet high. In the later TV movies, Austin is showing leaping heights that clearly appear to be in far excess of this.
Yeah, it whenever was convenient.
Apparently, as he got older, the bionics got better.
Yeah, well, he was used to them.
Yeah. He also had a bionic right arm. Has the equivalent strength of a bulldozer.
Yeah, that arm was insane.
I love the analogy. How strong is he? Strong as a bulldozer.
Well, he picked up a lot of stuff.
He did. A lot of cars. A lot of cars he picked up. The arm containing a Geiger counter was established in Doomsday and Counting, the 6th episode of the first season. He also had that thing you were talking about, where he could detect things, the scanner, kind of scanner thing. Also, it's worth noting that the show heavily implies that since Steve Austin was missing an arm and both legs, oxygenating the rest of his body was more efficient, allowing him to hold his breath underwater for a much longer period than a non-bionic person.
Okay.
That was part of the reason why, in the second TV movie, when he had to sneak into the infiltrate something and then come back.
Right.
And the 2 sailors were like, there's no way that somebody can swim that far and that fast. So we're just going to wait 30 minutes and we're going to leave.
Yeah, they didn't know he was bionic.
And then he was swimming, and then depth charges, and he almost died. Yeah. Other bionic benefits shown in the series.
Bionic wood carving, bionic heat sensing with his bionic eye to reveal that aliens were mechanical, bionic eye hand coordinated to catch a fish, bionic lawn mowing, window cleaning, sawing, pile driving and canoeing, bionic wheelchair rolling, bionic pillow fight, bionic carving of graffiti with a tree trunk. That was Jamie, by the way. Throwing a missile with the bionic arm, special scanner on his bionic hand to detect stolen microchips, bionic speed bag punching, and bionic jump roping, a flip-up access panel on his bionic arm exposing part of the internal mechanism, bionic digging, bionic chiseling, bionic juking, bionic screw fastening, and bionic wire stripping. There's 2 bionic pillow situations.
Oh, was there another one?
There's a bionic pillow fight between he and Jamie.
Yeah.
And then there's this one where he's captured and he takes a down pillow and chucks it at a dude.
Oh.
And it explodes in his face.
Oh,
knocks him down.
wow.
It was great. And yeah, I mean, most of the chores and stuff we saw when that was him doing his house.
Yeah.
His mom and dad would be like, "Hey, can we come help you?" Be like, "Yeah, no, I got it."
Well, that was when his mom, he goes and she's like, "What? I'm gonna need to clean behind the fridge," and he's like, "Well, I'll do it. I'll move the fridge." She's like, "No, if you slide it, you'll ruin the linoleum."
Ruin the floors.
And then she leaves, goes to the bathroom or something, and so he just moves it. And then of course she's like, "How did you do this?
You ruined the you didn't ruin the floors."
Yeah.
I don't know, Mom. It must have been your apple pie.
Drawbacks to Austin Bionics include not working at sub-zero temperatures, space radiation, and electrical malfunctions.
Yeah, and every time it would malfunction, it would go beep, 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 beep. That's how we knew
that it was malfunctioning.
And the look on his face, the acting.
So completely random tidbit. I didn't know where to put this in the script. During filming of episode 20 in season 4 in the funhouse called Laugh in the Dark, a technician tried to move a strange-looking wax-covered mannequin hanging from a rope.
Okay.
When he did, the mummy's arm broke off in his hand. Sticking out of the wax was a human bone.
What?
It was discovered that the mummified corpse was in fact arsenic-embalmed human remains of Elmer McCurdy, a Western outlaw who had been killed in a gunfight in 1911.
Random.
After he was conclusively identified, he was buried in a formal ceremony of which many of the show's crew were in attendance.
How creepy.
I had heard of this story a long time ago, did not know that this happened on the $6 Million Man.
Ah, so it is true.
It is true.
Oh, wow.
The guy was embalmed, and back in the day, he essentially became like part of like a traveling sideshow.
Yeah.
After he was dead, and then randomly got sold to some guy in Long Beach who got put in a warehouse, and then he was used apparently as a mannequin in a bunch of different stuff.
Crazy.
Yeah.
He was does he have an IMDb page?
He should. That would be amazing. So the show was a huge success and led to the offshoot show The Bionic Woman in 1976. It ran for one season on ABC, the $6 Million Man's network, but was canceled after one season.
Tragedy.
NBC picked it up, and ABC continued to air the $6 Million Man. NBC aired The Bionic Woman. ABC was doing the $6 Million Man. Because of this, Brooks and Richard Anderson as Oscar Goldman became the first known actors to portray the same characters as regulars simultaneously on two different networks.
Yeah, it's crazy that they let them do that.
It's these weird little trivia tidbits that I love because, as far as I know, no one else has ever done that. It's interesting. It's a stupid little trivia tidbit, but I love that.
They probably wouldn't be able to do it today.
That was my thought. Unfortunately, all good things must end, and both shows were canceled by the respective networks in the spring of 1978.
I thought it was longer than that. I kept thinking, when did this end?
It ran for 5 seasons, but the weird thing is that it ended on March 6th, 1978, which was one day shy of it being airing for 5 years. The show premiered on March 7th of 1973, and then got canceled on March 6th, 1978.
Oh, it was a sad birthday for little Jimmy that year. He was so sad.
However, Steve Austin and Jamie Summers returned in 3 subsequent made-for-television movies. They were called The Return of the $6 Million Man and The Bionic Woman in 1987.
Creative title.
Very, very. Bionic Showdown, although I will say, they did use The Return of 5 different times with titles.
A lot of people returning, man.
I mean, there's The Return of the Bigfoot, The Return of the guy, the multi-face guy.
Oh, yeah.
They had that, and then the return of...
that was the doctor played by Henry Jones.
Yeah.
He was, he
kept
creating robots.
But
again, there's this respect that Steve had for the doctor.
The other TV movies that happened was Bionic Showdown, The $6 Million Man, and The Bionic Woman in 1989, which featured Sandra Bullock in an early role as the new Bionic Woman.
Oh, yeah.
They were actually trying to make that as a backdoor pilot to do a new Bionic Woman show.
There were a few shows that looked like they were backdoor pilots.
Yeah.
That didn't actually go. There was one that I'm pretty sure it was about this guy whose mind was expanded.
Oh, yeah.
And he could remember everything.
Right,
I think they were going to make a show about him, but they never did.
Computer kind of thing.
Yeah, basically.
Well, because there was also a bionic dog, and then there was a little boy that became bionic, and
there was
kid.
The kid technically wasn't bionic. He had implants put in him that ended up giving him extra strength.
Oh,
but it was a glitch in whatever treatment he was having, and they had to fix it or it would kill him.
Right. Okay.
So I think he was normal after.
He wasn't bionic.
And that was played by Dick Van Patten's kid.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And Dick Van Patten was actually in that episode with his son. He played the shoe salesman.
Oh,
trying to get
I love
Dick
Van Patten.
Yeah.
The last TV movie was called Bionic Ever After in 1994, in which Austin and Summers finally get married and ends the long will they won't they lasted forever.
By the time they're 60.
I know.
Who cares?
Majors reprised the role of Steve Austin in all 3 productions, which also featured Richard Anderson and Martin E. Brooks, and Lindsay Wagner reprising the role of Jamie Summers. The reunion films addressed the partial amnesia Summers had suffered during the original series, and all 3 featured Majors' son, Lee Majors II, as OSI agent Jim Castilian.
Yeah, his son for a while was an actor.
They were trying to make him big.
He was a TV guy, and he wasn't bad. It's just he wasn't his dad. It's just he looked and sounded enough like his dad
Yeah.
that it just wasn't. It's kind of a knockoff situation.
Right.
It's a sad situation. Look, the Van Patten boys, they were fine because they didn't look anything like their dad, and their dad was a character actor. And,
Right.
You know, but yeah, I think it was a little bit tough for him.
Yeah. The first two movies were written in the anticipation of creating new Bionic characters in their own series, but nothing further was seen of the new characters introduced in those produced TV films. The third TV movie was intended as a finale, finally ending the saga of the Bionic Woman and the $6 Million Man. But that was not the end of the Bionic Man the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman. Universal Pictures developed a screenplay in 1995 with Kevin Smith, but the outing never materialized. Smith's screenplay was later adapted for The Bionic Man, an ongoing comic book series launched in 2011 by Dynamite Comics.
Okay.
Which I didn't realize.
Neither did I.
Kind of curious to check that out. In December 2001, it was announced that Universal had pacted with Dimension Films on the project after Dimension President Bob Weinstein saw potential as a franchise. Yeah,
He's not his brother.
No, it wasn't his brother. Universal retained film rights to the original TV show, while Dimension purchased the rights to the Cyborg novel, as well as Caidin's 3 other novels in the series: Operation Nuke, High Crystal, and Cyborg 4.
Cyborg 4.
Yeah. In October 2002, Trevor Sands was hired to write a new screenplay titled The $6 Billion Man.
Of course.
But Dimension scrapped it when actor Jim Carrey pitched a comedic take on the material for him to star in, with Scott Armstrong as writer and Todd Phillips as director co-writer. Filming was expected to begin in 2004, but it did not.
No.
I know. In a July 2006 interview at Comic-Con, Richard Anderson stated that he was involved with producing a movie of the series, but the rights were at the time in litigation between Miramax and Universal.
Okay.
And on November 6th, 2014, it was announced that a feature film, tentatively titled The $6 Billion Man, would go into production.
Here we go.
Mark Wahlberg was set to play Colonel Steve Austin, with Peter Berg as director.
Ugh.
A combination of names you never want to hear.
Well, look, Mark Wahlberg, he's got some performances that were great.
Sure.
Boogie Nights. That's Scorsese.
The Departed.
The Departed.
He was great in The Departed.
Good in that.
There's some other stuff. Like, he's done
Good
some
Guys.
comedy stuff.
He's good at comedy.
There was some of the other comedy stuff that I.
He's good at playing a dumb guy.
Yeah.
Don't be playing professors or doctors.
He should not be playing Steve Austin.
No, he is definitely not Steve Austin. You need somebody that's a lot more. Okay. You need somebody who's going to come across smart.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. And I'm sorry, Mark, but you just don't.
I know.
But that's okay. You don't have to be everything to everybody. And Peter Berg is extremely hit or miss. He had his time when he did his documentary style, flippity-floopy, shakety cameras.
Yeah.
War movie crap.
Friday Night Lights. Didn't he direct the movie for Friday
Yes, he did. But I don't know.
There is something. I don't mind Peter Berg as a director. His movies are okay.
They're fine.
There's something about Peter Berg that really bothers me.
Yeah. Well, he was an actor first.
I know.
And
there's just something about him that I just bothers me, and I don't know what it is.
I guarantee you that this would have been crap. I guarantee you this would have been a bad movie.
Okay, well, let's finish this because there's still a possibility it's still going to happen.
Still going to be horrible.
Filming was set to begin in early 2015 for a theatrical release the following year. It did not. On November 2nd, 2015, it was reported that Berg had left the film and had been replaced by Damien Civron, who also would write the film. He had written the most successful TV show in Argentina.
Oh, okay.
He's supposed to be really good. So maybe it would be better.
He'd be hungry. Anybody better than Peter Berg.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to see a documentary-style shaky camera version of the $6 Million Man.
No. Filming was set to begin in September 2016 with a December 22nd, 2017 release date. It did not. In December 2017, the Weinstein Company sold the film rights to Warner Brothers. As of January 2018, they hope to start filming the movie in mid-2018.
And this is still all with Mark Wahlberg attached?
In April 2018, they set an early to mid-2019 release for the film. The film was moved to June 5th, 2020 until Wonder Woman 1984 took over the release date. In April 2019, Travis Knight and Bill Dubuque would replace Civron as director and writer. Travis Knight directed Kubo and the Two Strings and Bumblebee.
Kubo and the Two Strings was great.
Yeah, and Bumblebee was fun. I mean, he's good with animation and like that kind of stuff. So like,
out of all of the bloated, gross, overdone Transformers
movies, yeah.
I'm putting in quotes, movies.
Yeah.
Bumblebee was the least.
Yeah, it was fun. Bill Dubuque wrote The Accountant and was a writer on Ozark.
Okay, Ozark was good. I didn't see. I think I saw.
You saw The Accountant. It was I think that was Ben. I think it was Ben Affleck. Movie. Yeah. He's like an autistic hitman or something.
Whatever. I'm so over Ben Affleck. I'm so over him.
Unfortunately, even with these two on, Wahlberg is still hoping to get the movie off the ground with a guest star from Lee Majors.
Okay. Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
He would be a great Bionic Man.
Yeah.
He's got that personality. He's got that everyman quality.
Yeah.
I think he would be great. I think Timothy Chalamet. No, I always say
Timothy Chalamet.
I actually like Timothy Chalamet. I don't know if he would be a good Bionic Man.
I have not seen enough of his work to say if he would be good as Bionic Man or not.
He was in Dune.
I did. Like I said, I haven't seen enough of his work.
But you don't need a buff action hero for this.
No.
That is not who Steve Austin is. Steve Austin is a reluctant hero.
Right.
Steve Austin is a smart guy who uses his bionics when necessary.
Yeah.
Or when he needs to cheat at something and show up his friends.
Right.
Or win a bet, apparently.
Right.
But he usually gets caught on it, but not always.
Because even now at this point, I think Mark Wahlberg's getting too old.
He's way too old. Mark Wahlberg is my age. He's in his 50s.
Yeah.
We don't need a Bionic Man in his effing 50s. These guys, I am sorry. I just watched the Mission Impossible Part 1.
Oh, did you watch Dead Reckoning?
Yeah. Look, I don't know what happened in that movie. I don't care. All I know is that it's like, it's like one long chase.
Yeah.
One long chase. And it's okay. Here's where old man Cruise is going to do some crazy stunt. And I'm sorry, but he's looking old. He's not. It's too much now. It's just, I don't buy it. I don't buy him. I thought the movie was bloated. There's no reason why it needs to be a two-parter. It's ridiculous. But that's the thing, is these guys have to give it up to the new guys.
Yeah, they need to hang it up. Yeah.
It's time to let it go. Not everybody is Harrison Ford. Not everybody can carry on this career until their 80s. Lean into the comedies. I know you guys are using your HGH and pumping in that testosterone to get you big old muskies, but you're still 55 years old.
Right.
Nobody wants that.
Right.
It's like Bill Maher, 68 years old, and is complaining that people don't want him at colleges. Nobody wants an old man stand up at colleges.
I always look for the 68-year-old man at my college parties. What are you talking about?
It's just time to move on. And I think, hey, be a producer on it, Mark. Find a good guy to star in it. I want them to give it. Here's the thing. Either they're going to do it one of two ways, unfortunately, I think. Either they could do it like the Jim Carrey route and make it a parody of itself, like they did with so many shows of the 70s and 80s, whether it's the Dukes of Hazzard or whatever. They just kind of eat themselves and make this, we're just going to solipsistically make fun of everything and blabbity bleats. Or, they make it this overblown, slick action movie that with all these set pieces and he's got to use his bionics and all this stuff. But that's not, the show is a guy doing the right thing. That's basically all it is. But Henry Cavill would be great.
Henry Cavill would be really good. Adam Driver. He's not charming enough.
He can be.
But I think he could pull it off.
Look, I would say that little bit in the Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah.
Where he was the good Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
It was the best part of that trilogy.
I agree. Your favorite, Eddie Redmayne?
No.
It's in the Chalamet era. But no, the other one I was looking at was Ryan Gosling. It would be funny to have Ryan Gosling play both the Lee Majors parts.
He definitely can do it, and that's why they got him for the Fall Guy, because he is a Lee Majors type. He's got that charm and that way about him that's super likable. All of these actors we're talking about has the charm and the intelligence to pull it off. This is personal for me.
Yeah.
Because Steve Austin was my first real TV hero. Steve Austin, I loved him. I had the doll. I had the space capsule that turns into... The funny thing is they released the $6 Million Man doll. which was great. It had a little. You could look through his eye.
Oh,
and it magnified. You could roll up his skin and take out little chunks on his legs and his arms.
Shows bionics.
And then it came with this engine you put in his hand and the thing in his back, and it'd be like,
oh, nice.
Had all these really great things, but you had nobody to play with. You could play with your G.I. Joes because they're about the same size.
Yeah.
But then, inevitably, they released. I sent you all these great commercials.
Yeah.
Oh, if you have a chance on YouTube, look up $6 Million Man doll commercials because they are just amazing, these kids. But they released the Oscar Goldman, and I remember my friend got the Oscar Goldman, and we would play, and it would just be like, okay, Steve, go do this. And I'd be like, all right. And then Oscar would just stay in his office, and I'd go beat up the G.I. Joes. I don't know if then they released this guy kind of based on the robot with a face that changed.
Oh yeah, I can't remember what they called him.
He was
like Omni-Man or Omni or something.
Like Mask-a-Man or
Mask-Man or something. Yeah.
Maskader or something. But he had like this, claw hand and all these attachments and stuff. Never was on the show. He was just kind of made up because you needed a villain. You needed somebody for him to fight. Right. And I think they might have made a Bigfoot doll at some point.
Oh yeah.
But I just remember just waiting until that show aired, and it was at the time before VCRs and everything that if you missed it, you missed it.
Right. So you had to watch it.
Yeah. So I had to get my little outfit on, get my little doll, and I would sit there and just glued to it. And then during the commercials, I'd make up my own adventures and then play along. Those types of like multimedia watching, which I was doing, which, I was pretty ahead of my time. That's, I think, what like got me into acting and got me into pretending, because I at that point in my life as a little boy, I loved nothing more than disappearing into a fantasy world, or disappearing into my G.I. Joes, or disappearing,
right,
and hiding and playing and having my own space and not being bothered. Watching him as a little kid also helped define my moral compass.
Yeah,
because you have a guy that's not telling you to do the right thing. He's showing you how to do the right thing and how to do it in a way. I think a lot of my compassion and a lot of the good qualities I have come from that. And I'm not being hyperbolic. I think we lived in a time where you had to walk everything off. You get hurt, walk it off. You cry, I'll give you something to cry about. There wasn't a lot of empathy or compassion back then. And I think seeing somebody on TV that had empathy and compassion was revolutionary. And it really helped with my development. I think the development of other kids too. I mean, maybe that's overstating it or whatever.
No, but I think that's true. I mean, you can't discount popular media and like what it does, because I mean, we were going through a very big shift in America at that time. Between the realization of what Vietnam was and the fact that we couldn't trust our president anymore, and all this stuff. Like
equal rights.
You had to
feminism.
You had to have somebody that you could look up to and say, okay, this is who's doing the right thing.
Right. And it was essentially a kid show. I mean, nobody smoked on it. There were very rarely would you see a cigarette. There was one time when he was undercover as a doctor and he had to use a pipe, but I don't think he actually smoked it. I think he just used it for effect. But it was essentially a kid's show that adults loved. And because it wasn't a kid's show.
Yeah, cool.
You know what I mean?
Kid show. Yeah.
Again, a show that never knew really what it was, but that's what kept it fresh.
It appealed to everyone.
It was so weird. Like there were definitely comedic episodes. Like, I don't know if you watched the Moonshine episode.
No.
Which is basically, it was jumping on the, like, Smoking the Bandit or the the convoy or the trucker craze of the time. But during those types of episodes, he would like knock a guy out and you'd hear you'd hear the birds, like the cartoon birds.
Yeah, yeah.
So, they didn't use that all the time, but they used it sometimes.
Yeah.
So it was just, you never really knew what you were going to get with that show.
Because there was also sometimes very weirdly real episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Where, like, I don't remember all that happens in it, but where he's, like, he's with a woman and he's taking a boat And these guys show up and they're like, "We're your guides." And he's like, no. Like, I'm supposed to have my friend here and you're not. And so the guy who's running the boat from, he's like, "Hey, like, I'll hire you. You wanted to be my guide. I trust you." And then, of course, the two guys are bad guys.
Sure.
And they attack them and they end up killing the poor guide who was like sunk his boat and that's when he does the canoe, like he carves a canoe out of a tree with his bionic arm. But like the guy, it's like, and he's just like, oh my God, like he's dead. Yeah. Like he's just dead. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, there was some brutality, some brutal
moments.
I mean,
you never saw but it was like he got attacked and he was gone. The boat was gone. And it was like, oh my God. Like, and it was, he was sad about it. It was like, oh, it's this guy that
Well, yeah, because, the guy had feelings. He wasn't just a robot.
He was not just a robot. He was bionic.
I think the thing that people probably remember the most are the Bigfoot episodes.
Yeah.
Because they were so huge.
They were so
and
weird.
You had Andre the Giant playing the Bigfoot at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think the only time he did it was the first. And then Ted Cassidy, who showed up as the big guy on everything.
Yeah.
As an alien or this or that. He was on Star Trek. He was on all sorts of stuff. Big guy. He took over for the subsequent ones. But their take on Bigfoot was so bizarre. Bigfoot was a part organic, part bionic alien.
Technically, Bigfoot was from another planet.
Right, but there was also...
But was also a cyborg.
But they also talked about the native Bigfoot versus the alien Bigfoot.
Again, so convoluted.
Right. And, and
that was including the episode with the aliens who moved faster than everybody else, so they could just appear behind you. But again, it made no sense.
No. But Stephanie Powers was hot, and she and she and Steve had a little something.
Those Bigfoot episodes, they actually released them as feature films in Europe.
Oh, yeah.
And the absolute best was in Spain. They released it, and it was Le Hombre Bionique.
Le Hombre Bionique. Look, you could see the zipper up the back. It wasn't the greatest costume in the world. No. But it didn't matter.
They were huge, though.
You didn't care. When he fought Bigfoot and ripped his arm off and he was a robot, you're like, what? What? Because Bigfoot was so huge back then.
Yeah.
Bigfoot was a part of our lives. They were
ripped out of the headlines.
Feature films searching for Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I went to see that with the old man.
Yeah.
Leonard Nimoy was the narrator of In Search of Bigfoot.
Of course.
That was released. They released all that stuff. The Loch Ness Monster, all of those cryptids were huge back then. And their take on Bigfoot was unlike any other take. And they doubled and tripled down on it. And my favorite was, and I guess this might be probably one of the origins of my love of enemies becoming friends, because through the arc of the Bigfoot episodes, he and Bigfoot become friends.
Yeah.
And then by the time we get to Bigfoot 5, the last of the Bigfoot saga, Bigfoot gets awakened by some weird instrument that this lady's using to find Bigfoot that doesn't really explain. It's basically got a red and a green and a yellow in the middle. And then when the thing went to the yellow in the middle, she's like, there's something up there.
That must be Bigfoot.
But the thing messed with his mind, and you find out he was supposed to... Bigfoot decided to stay and not go to space,
and not leave
with his buddies,
his friends.
He's in stasis, and his mind is developing, and when he's done, he'll be able to do whatever. But if you wake him up before the process is finished, his primal side's gonna come. And they mark this like he has one milky eye and one regular eye, because I guess he's kind of turning more organic.
How much drugs were the writers doing?
So great. But Steve is like my friend.
Yeah.
My friend is in trouble.
Right.
And even though he attacked him, he's like, hello, my friend. Hey, my friend, how are you doing?
Yeah.
There's this whole part where he's in the water and they're trying to save each other. And then there's these two hunters that are trying to get Bigfoot to put him in a zoo or have him, in a dancing show. And they rescue Bigfoot because he's frozen, because his bionics froze too or whatever.
Sure, of course.
They bring him back, and I almost teared up. It's so crazy. It was a kind of an emotional week for me. I had some stuff going down, so I was probably in a state. But I'm watching the end of this episode, and on this really badly filmed computer terminal, and it's just, you can see all the horizontal flips and floops, because you couldn't really film stuff back then.
Right.
They had, he's like, all right, my friend, sleep well. And when you wake up, you're going to be fine. And then the Bigfoot's like, I will be fine. You saved me. And he's like, until we meet again, friend, or whatever. And then it's like, friend. And I'm like, oh, man, they're like good buddies.
They're buddies,
I'm getting the chills thinking about it right now, which is just so goofy. But that's how it was. It's the goofiest thing in the world, but it harkens back to me to a time of more innocence, and it's just funny to watch these things. A lot of these things, especially these things that I watched when I was really young.
Right.
And kind of see the origin story of me or my sense of humor or some of my values are really found in television.
Yeah.
And you know, the things that I watched, and especially this show.
Go ahead. That's the same for me when we will discuss Quantum Leap next week. We're watching it now. I've come to realize why I'm much more progressive than I think I am, because the show was.
Yeah.
It's just one of those, like, wow, I was young and it was just me absorbing.
Yes. And I know I totally hijacked the show because of my love for it.
No.
You know,
I'll get my turn.
You're due next week. It's the first time that I've really rewatched something that was so important to me as a kid.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it since.
Right.
At least not any significant amount. I may have caught a movie here or there. I'm sure I watched all the movies in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
But it's just very interesting to me to re-experience something that was so crucial in some ways to me being who I am. But it really was a good show for kids to watch.
Yeah.
And it
still is.
Still is. And it made me want to be an astronaut. It made me want to be a pilot until I realized all the work that has to go into it. But I'm still watching it. I got to the 5th season before.
Yeah.
Before I was hoping to finish it before, but I still got. I mean, it's dance, man. It's a dance show.
There's a lot of episodes, man.
A lot of episodes, and each episode is 50 minutes because back then, if you haven't seen it, it's not going to hit you the way it hit me. You're probably not going to, get as much out of it. But
I've been really enjoying it.
Yeah, but you will enjoy it.
Yeah.
And Lee Majors.
He's so good.
He is kind of a forgotten guy in certain respects. But he was the biggest star in the world in the 70s. And he and his wife he and Farrah Fawcett Majors were on every single cover. They were the it couple.
Yeah.
And The Fall Guy was still a fun show. The guy was 70s and 80s for me. And I will always love Lee Majors, and I will always, always, always love the $6 Million Man as my first love.
Yes.
Of TV, baby.
Check it out. It's on Peacock. Give it a watch. Go in with an open mind. It'll be worth it. It'll be worth it.
You got to see my bionics.
We'll be back next week with Quantum Leap.
Yeah, we're going to leap.
And I'd also wish that I could watch all of it beforehand, but that's not going to happen.
My bionics. Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. We have the man. Oh, wait, hold on.
No, you skipped a line.
Sorry. Gentlemen, ready go. Come. What?
It's Redigo. I don't know what that is.
Ready go. Is it Ready Go Combat?
No, just Redigo.
Okay. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming, Saturday Night Live, already in progress.